Hello, I'm Elliot Hack, Community Relations Associate here at University House, Wallingford. Before we start today's presentation, Ike Alma would like to share a little bit about our beautiful community and our wonderful speaker today.
Thank you, Elliot. In affiliation with the University of Washington Retirement Association, University House Wallingford residents benefit from the partnership developed with University of Washington Schools of Nursing, Social Work, and Pharmacy to deliver innovative programs designed with healthy living and lifelong learning in mind. If you are considering making a move to a retirement community, you are very welcome to arrange a visit and explore everything we have to offer, including future health options and how our wait list works. And now to our main event. Dick Carruthers of Windermere has been a realtor for 30 years and has successfully negotiated and closed hundreds of transactions in all kinds of market conditions. Dick has earned the prestigious Seniors Real Estate Specialist designation and is on the advisory board of Windermere Seniors Transition Group. He is a passionate person, very passionate about working with seniors and the special people in their lives. Thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome, Dick.
Thank you. Thank you all for attending today. Yes, my name is Dick Carruthers, and I wanted just to enlighten you a bit about what the Senior Real Estate Specialist designation is. I'm a member of a group of nationwide real estate agents who specialize in working with all of the different facets of what the senior demographic goes through when it's time to sell their residence and make their move. We do periodic studying, clock hour classes, because what we found is that when someone who's been in their home, been in their condominium for 30, 40, I mean, you name it, 50 years, there is a whole myriad of things that have to occur and be done before putting that sign out in the front yard and actually selling the property. So what I'd like to do is begin and kind of let you know what our marketplace here in the Seattle market is doing. Because I think it's important as you get closer to start thinking about, well, do I want to move? Is now the right time to move? Obviously, there's personal situations that come up, but also you kind of want to get a glimpse in what the marketplace is really doing, because we get so much information today. So I think it's important that you make sure the marketplace that you decide to sell into is predictable, and the whole process goes without any major surprises. Okay, so there's, first of all, I'd like to kind of give you an update on some of the statistics of what's going on out there. As far as the single family home marketplace, currently our median home prices in our area is $785,000, which is up 6.1% from a year ago today. So that's been prices have been going up for the last number of years. As far as homes for sale, there's only 880 homes for sale in the Seattle marketplace, which is very low supply. The average number of days on the market that the seller, once they put it on, received the offer, was about 7 days. So as you've been hearing or reading, yes, the marketplace is moving quite quickly. Thus the reason to be as prepared as possible so it doesn't become too overwhelming. As far as the asking price goes, the median asking price received by the sellers was 100% of their asking price. There are homes that are selling for over the asking price. Again, that's kind of a case-by-case basis. But that's why it's so important to price the home properly when it comes time to do so. As far as condominiums go, the median price is $475,000, which is up 3.3% year after year. As far as the number of condominiums for sale, there's about 720 condominiums. Now, this is, of course, all price ranges. As far as number of days on the market before receiving an offer, it was 17 days. And the sellers have been receiving on average 99% of the asking price. So as you can see, it's all a very, very positive, very good situation as far as being a seller goes. If you're looking to become a buyer, it's a little tough out there. So let's talk about some other factors that make up the housing market, and take a look at where we stand today. The cost to borrow money, there is plenty of mortgage money available. We are seeing a lot of cash offers in the competitive environment. Probably more cash offers this year than I've seen in my career. Interest rates are about 3.1% for a 30-year fixed rate loan. So that's what's driving the market, is even though prices are going up, the interest rates are really at all-time lows. As far as personal income and jobs, Seattle still enjoys a tech sector that has a lot of high-paying jobs, and that's again kind of what's driving our marketplace. Job growth, we have about a 6% unemployment rate. In its heyday in Seattle, it was down to about 3.5%, but we've dropped a couple of points from just last year at this time. And lastly, and what I think is driving the marketplace is supply and demand. There is a heavy demand of buyers out there, some moving up from their homes they're in, others, again, first-time buyers, mid-30s in age, good jobs, and they're vying for what's some of the lowest supply that we've ever had. So again, supply and demand bodes well for being a seller. Any questions on that? All right. So in the selling process, we just kind of went over, what the environment is, and it is a very positive environment for being a seller. But as what I'm going to share with you now, there's other factors when one decides it's time to sell or should they sell. There's a lot of other things that come into play, and I'd like to share those with you because at some point you may find yourselves going through these different emotions, and it's not unusual. The group of senior real estate specialists, they're constantly taking surveys and polls all around the different marketplaces in our country, including Seattle. The polls tend to question about 700 people. The average age group is age 72 to 85. So one of them is, okay, so it looks like it's a good time to do something. Maybe you think you should, but you're a little hesitant. So one of the questions was, what are the fears that are holding back people from making a move? And the number one response in this particular survey was the fear of change. The fact that, as we live longer in our homes, the roots get pretty deep. And so just the sheer fear of change prevents people from being proactive, even though a lot of people think that they should. The fear of downsizing, packing, sorting, it's a very daunting task. There's no sugarcoating it. As far as, will I miss my home? Am I making the right decision? At some point, once you get closer to actually selling your home and it actually sells, the home becomes a house. You take your memories with you to wherever you're going. And as far as making the right decision, oftentimes I have found that people don't have enough information. And there's a gap in information gathering. So it's important to talk with someone or whoever you're getting guidance from to figure out, okay, what am I missing here, so that I can be more comfortable in making a concern. Then lastly, and what I found interesting is that only 4% of the people polled said financial concerns were the issue. And if any of you have been out visiting communities such as Era Living or condominiums or things of that nature, none of it comes at a very low price tag. But believe it or not, people that wasn't a concern of theirs. It was more the other things that were going through their minds that were holding them back. Likewise, there was a survey put out, what were the top reasons to make a move? Number one thing was maintaining the home. 42% of the individuals said, I'm just getting tired of maintaining the home. And what I have personally found, and by personally meaning the number of people that I've helped as clients, what happens is that as we're more hanging out around the house, especially with the latest pandemic, we've probably spent more time in our homes than we want to. But as you look around, you start seeing all these various things that it takes to maintain a home. And if you have the financial means to hire everything out, that still didn't take care of the looking around you and creating some angst on how much more needs to be done. Right behind that was health issues, 34%. I can impart that if one has a health issue and looks candidly at making some decisions based on that, things would go much smoother for you all if you decide to address those situations while you're in control of the whole situation. Where things get in disarray and poor decisions are made, or if something happens, you again may have to go to rehab and those type of things. And then you're told, well, you really shouldn't be going back to the house because it's too large, too many stairs, et cetera, et cetera. So my suggestion would be think about the health as part of your overall planning, and be real candid with yourselves. Downsizing, the home is too large. What's funny is that only 10% of the people polled thought their homes were too large. And when I visit potential clients or work with clients, one or two people are living in a 4,000 square foot home. So I don't know, what the reference point is here, but when you got half your home blocked off because you just don't use it or ever even venture into that portion of the house, perhaps it's time to do a little downsizing. Then the last part, and something that's not probably commonly talked about, is loneliness. As we grow older, we're not out seeing as many friends. Some of our friends are departed. And so we ended up spending more just time with ourselves or a real small group of people. And what it's been found that loneliness actually has an effect on people's health. And I'm sure if you are touring University House, they can converse with you about the loneliness aspect, because with a lot of people that I've helped relocate to the communities, when I revisit them a few months later, they actually look healthier, they're happier. And again, so it's something that's real, and just something I wanted to share with you to be aware of. All right, we're going to start discussing the beginning of the process of getting your home ready to go on the market, those type of things. So many of you, or some of you, may, during this process, when it comes time to move, will be interviewing perhaps a couple of different real estate agents. And one thing that has changed considerably over the years, I mean, if you haven't sold a property in 30, 40 years, things have changed on the legal front quite a bit. And one that I think is important, and it's important because you don't want surprises once you're in the process of selling. There used to be a time when all real estate agents represented the seller. The rationale was the seller paid the commission. Even though most of the brokers representing their buyers had never met the seller, that's just the way it was. Well, in today's marketplace, there are really three different ways agents can represent the consumer. You have your listing agent, which is the real estate agent who is representing and advocating for you only. You've got the buyer's agent, and the buyer's agent is strictly representing the buyer only. Even if the buyer's agent happens to be with the same company as the listing agent that you hired, they don't have any loyalty or any representation for you. They're strictly representing the buyer. Then lastly, we are in this state as real estate agents allowed to represent both parties in a transaction. And this is called dual agency. Personally, I don't believe in dual agency because I've not ever seen a way where one agent can truly represent both a buyer and a seller. Because there's always going to be items that come up working with the seller that you don't want to have shared with a buyer's agent or an agent at all. You only want someone to represent you. So but it is legal, and I bring it up now that if it's an important component to you, you perhaps ask a person that you're interviewing what their thoughts are, because it's a little late once the agent brings you an offer and now they're asking you to perhaps drop your price, that type of thing. And you look and say, well, you're supposed to be representing me. Well, I represent the buyer too. So anyway, that's something that's changed considerably since perhaps a lot of you have bought or sold a home. Okay, I'm going to touch a bit on communication. The number one complaint that I have heard for years, and that is shared by many, is that communication between your agent and yourself sometimes starts breaking down, or starts out great, the first week, but then a friend might ask in a couple weeks, how's your real estate transaction going? Well, the sign's up, but I haven't really heard much from my agent. And it is critical that you communicate with your broker exactly on what's going on. And that, again, it all fits how you want to receive it. It can be every day, It can be weekly. Again, it's something that needs to be tailored to you personally. Because again, everybody likes to communicate and do things differently. Secondly, I offer what's called a quick cancel guarantee. It doesn't happen often, but there have been times when ready to go on the market, we even maybe go on the market, and then something comes up with an illness in the family, something of that nature that's just kind of out of the blue. Well, you sign a listing contract when you hire the agent, and it usually runs for a period of time. And that period of time on average is about 6 months, unless your property is so unique that it could take much longer to find that small number of buyers. So I happen to think that if one of those things come up and it's just not the right time, then a discussion's had and we cancel the listing agreement, and you're free to take care of whatever you need to do. Now, there are numerous other real estate agents out there who may decide to take your home off the market, but they don't really cancel the listing. You're still liable for a period of months to pay them a commission if, let's say, your son or daughter or whom decided that they were going to buy the property. They would try to still ask you to pay the commission. I think it makes it all just too messy, and prefer to have a nice clean break, so then you're not under any stress. Lastly, as a thank you for coming to these webinars, and I also realize that in getting your home together, you're going to run into a few expenses. I offer a $1,000 discount off the brokerage fee, knowing that windows cleaning, carpets, even the bare minimums, there'll be some cost to it. All right. In the vein of communication, what I have put into the presentation that I use is it's a questionnaire. It's called, identifying your wants and needs. The goal being is that we need to know if you've had any experiences in selling real estate, and if so, what was good or bad about it, because the last thing we want to do is duplicate the same bad experience you had before. Questions of, do you have a financial advisor who can help you determine whether you can afford the community of your choice? Probably a pretty good time to do that would be at the beginning of your journey moving forward, then to find out that there's an opening for you where you wish to go, and then all of a sudden the finances don't line up. It's not pleasant, and it will cause a lot of angst. And then there's a whole, again, another whole list of questions, various questions that will help get your thoughts together. And one of those is at the very end is the question is, it's 6 months from now, describe the perfect situation for yourself. I've seen people, and that's why I ask if people are interested, that they each fill out the questionnaires. In other words, if you have a spouse, family, whomever you're going to rely on in your decision-making process, I'd recommend you each fill out the questionnaire and then share it with each other. If you're open to it, I like to have a read of it as well to make sure everybody's on the same page. Because I have occasionally visited people at their home, and when looking at what's the perfect situation for yourself, one of the spouses in this case was saying, wow, I'm finally looking forward to maybe not cooking as much, not maintaining the house, various items that have been weighing on them, because I want to get out and do some of the things that I just haven't had sometimes time to do. Then I look over at him, and his question is answered in, well, I'm looking forward next spring to going out into my shop and start completing my woodworking project. And so I'm looking and going, oh my goodness, sir, it doesn't look like you're really wanting to move. And he says, oh no, I don't plan on moving. She wants to move, but I don't. Well, it was sobering to be sitting here looking at that, and but much better then than while trying to sell the home. Again, it's something you can share, and it'll really make the process go much more smoothly. And if you'd like copies of the questionnaire, you provide Elliot with your email address, I can just scan it and send it your way if you think it something it would be helpful. All right, let's talk about steps in preparing your home for sale. And this, of course, applies to condominiums as well when I use the word home. How we live in a home and how we sell a home for top dollar can be two different things. The buyers in today's marketplace, of course, are getting their information via the internet. That's the first place that they go. So they then go out, maybe drive by the properties that they've kind of earmarked, start getting a feel for the neighborhood. And when they come time to buy, it's a very emotional scenario. So they buy based on emotion, and then they start justifying the decision with logical and rational criteria. The buyers must mentally move into your home from the moment they drive up the driveway. So anything you can do or we can do to help make this mental leap will increase the likelihood that the buyer will write a good offer on your home. So as a seller, you also need to keep in mind that there's going to be different sets of eyes that are viewing your home. One, of course, is the eyes of the buyers, very important. The eyes of the real estate agents, very important, because they're the ones that are going to be bringing their buyers through, and we want to make sure that they're excited and that we meet some of their expectations. There's home inspectors. Most of the homes today have home inspections, which kind of dig through the inside and the outside of the home to, kind of break it down to see if there's any glaring issues. And lastly, if our buyer is going to be getting a bank appraisal, we have a bank appraiser who goes out to the house. They're generally there to measure and come up with the value of the house. Now, again, if you've got a roof that's got a little blue tarp on one of the sections, moss everywhere, some glaring issues, the bank appraiser may well say, we'll lend on the home, but there's a few things to take care of. So the first step that we're going to discuss is the consultation, a pre-market consultation. And what generally happens is I'll go out, meet with the consumer. We walk around the outside of the home. We look at, how does it look? Does it need some landscaping? Does it need painting? Because the home has gone past a point that it is the roof in okay shape? Those type of things. Those things have a handsome payback for the money spent. Likewise, when we go in the house, we look at not only the floor plan, but the condition. And in the majority of cases, the condition is HGTV, some of these shows that you may be watching about real estate, they would have you think that you've got to go in, totally redo your entire house, and that this will happen for a small nominal charge, and it all gets done in 3 weeks and whatnot. Well, I'm here to tell you that's not the case. It could take you 3 months to find a contractor who even would want to start a project. And in most cases, the buyers, they'll come in and do their own thing regardless. So unless it's something like, the furnace is broken, or there's fuses on the back porch of a home, from the 20s or 30s, unless there are a few of those things, generally I've found that you can get away today's market by just cleaning and having it presentable. If you're going to be living in the home while it's on the marketplace, then we also need to address how much furniture do you have? Is the bay window that looks out into your nice yard have a hutch that you might have inherited that covers the whole window? We have to go through room by room to make sure that we can make the space look as enticing as possible for the potential buyer. Because that's the one thing potential buyers sometimes can't do, is envision decorating, because a lot of times they're first-time buyers, even though they are in their mid-30s. They're coming from apartments, and they may have a little bit of furniture, but not much. So on the note of getting the house physically ready for the market, the first thing, of course, will be downsizing. And for most of you, if you're in a single family home, there will be considerably more downsizing than if you've already made a move once to a condominium. But what can happen out there is there's a real challenge when people go to downsizing because of psychologically just letting go of their stuff. For some reason, we all get attached to it. Secondly, the physical component of it. It's a lot of work to move boxes, go up into attics, start taking things down and whatnot. And again, there's no glamour in going up to the attic to say, okay, I'm going to dig in there, and then finding one hurts themselves. So those are the two components that, as the downsizing thing comes into play, that you'll find will cause a little bit of angst. Secondly is who will help in the downsizing, and who will help in eliminating the procrastination that always occurs. It's just an innate part of the process. Well, the first thing that we tend to gravitate to is, do we have family members who will help? And if you do have family and they're willing to help, the real key will be to have a discussion with them to let them know that you appreciate their intentions, but you've been going through and you're going to start sorting through 30 years of things. And oftentimes family members will come over on a Saturday morning, and by the time it's noon, they're starting just to, ask you, do you want this? No, toss it in the bin. And the process will go much too quickly for you. And by the end of the day, you'll be, again, totally burned out and wishing you'd never started. So discussion with the family, it takes some time. It's just the nature of it. And we all know going in, it may make it more of a pleasurable experience if that can happen. There are what are called packing and sorting companies. These are called downsizers. They're professional companies who will come in and go through the whole process, including the packing of items that you wish to take with you to your new residence. They'll also, as I mentioned, pack everything, because if you pack items yourself, the movers that eventually you'll use will not insure them. They only insure items that they pack. These packing and sorting companies, they set an appointment with you on a regular basis, and they're really quite good to work with. They're cheaper than moving companies, and they have some empathy, because this is what they're set up to do, is to work with people like yourselves who have been in place for quite a long time. There's also the option of estate sales. And the estate sale companies, they take a portion, 55% roughly, of what the take is once all your items are sold. A lot of homes do not warrant having an estate sale company, because the buyers today that come in, and I mean buyers looking at estate sales, they're pretty particular on what they're looking for. There's obviously the very high-end antique market, which is its own kind of little entity. But in general, they're looking for memorabilia from the 50s, 40s, mid-century modern furniture, those type of things. What they're not looking for is china. They're not looking for silverware. And interesting enough, they're melting down the silverware just for the value of the metal. And so if you have somebody come over, take a look at your place, don't be offended if you're being told, sorry, what's dear to you isn't dear to anybody else out there. Then there's charities. And donation is the number one thought on these companies' minds. In other words, if it can be donated, and there's a number of places to donate to, but I will say that when it comes to furniture and a lot of heavier items, fewer and fewer places are taking those. They're just, and if they are taking them, they've got to be in just pristine condition. So we need to be candid about what you have. So once you've given items to family members, maybe sold it to charities, well, now we're left with items that just have nowhere to go. That's where we bring in what's called clean out companies. They will come in and they'll make everything that's left go away. Then they go out and through their avenue, they can donate what they can. And at the end of the day, then the landfill is the only option. Packing and sorting companies are $65 to $75 an hour. Moving companies, because they have, they're governed by Washington state law, they're like $120, $125 an hour. And they go very quick. So they're not there to help you make decisions. They're expecting you to just say, okay, let's make this all ready to move to my new apartment. They will also, the packing and sorting companies, set up your new apartment for you, which is really, it's a wonderful aspect of it. Because when you get ready to move, if it is to, again, a community or an apartment, they'll help you with the floor plan, where to put items, so you can have a well-oiled game plan, so that you can literally, if you want, have them do their thing. They can set up the apartment and you can just move on in and be ready to perhaps, go out and have your first meal. Because they'll even hang the art and whatnot. It just depends on the whole scope. You don't have to pay for it all. You can only pay for what you need. And again, they'll do a consultation with you as well. And I'm not quite sure at the moment whether University House are allowing the companies to come in, the packing and sorting to measure, the apartments or whatnot. But that's something that maybe at the end here that could be addressed. Any questions?
Yeah, Dick, we do have a question and a comment. So the first comment was just somebody who was going back to when you're talking about financial advisors, and they just wanted to let everyone on the webinar know that what the first thing they did was meet with their financial advisor when they started thinking about moving to a community, and that it was they ran the numbers and let them know that they would be in great shape. So just something that they highly recommend for anybody thinking about selling their home and moving to a community. And then one question that we had was, one person asked if it's possible to move out of your home while it's on the market and into a community while it's being sold in that process.
The answer to that question is that is actually the perfect storm for the consumer. If you're able to secure the apartment, which of course now you know where you're going, so it's much easier with the floor plans to know what you're able to take. If you can move to the community first, then come back and we address the house, items that are remaining. Are there any little fixes that may or may have to occur? Those type of things. That is the ideal scenario. And I would say that probably 90% of the people that I represent who have moved, one couple just recently moved to your community. Yes, that's exactly the way we did it. It just makes it so much easier on yourselves. And again, you don't have to live in your environment while it's totally like camping. That would be best. I think that answered it, huh?
Yes, I think so. And then Dick, I did just want to let you and the folks on the webinar know that we are allowing move managers to come in at this time to help out with packing and sorting. We have our certain screening protocols in place, but if those are passed, the helpers are able to come in and they can actually, if you're thinking about making a move, they can measure everything out and start to arrange things and put a plan in place for you.
Okay, that's great. So it's an invaluable resource. If you don't use one, that's fine too. I'm sure the communities will welcome your moving in, but they'll literally set up the moving day, the protocols that have to be in place with the community for the actual movers, the truck to show up. They will take care of all of that for you in the process. So it really, between that, and then I kind of get in communication with the move management people as well to make sure that everybody in the team, if you will, is on board. So that ensures that you've got a smooth transition.
Great. And then we had another question that came in. Somebody is wondering if you have anybody you recommend for packing and sorting companies. Now, we have a couple we can recommend too, but they're just curious if you have any you can recommend.
I do. I don't have their, information, their contact information right in front of me, but there is Hanson Brothers. Okay, and they have an arm called HB Move Management, which I think Era Living has used many times. And then I also use a lady, and I'm just trying to think of, and her mother actually used to live in your community. Let me think it let me think it through and get back to you on the second one. What I try to do is match up personalities. Having worked with these different companies, I realize that some people like to move fast. And so a certain personality of your move manager needs to know. Others need a little more bedside manner, if you will. And so I try to set that up as well. So I will, while I'm going through here, I'm sure it'll pop up who the second one is.
All right, thank you, Dick. And if I think I'm right, I believe the second company you're trying to think of is Next Step Transitions. Correct me if I'm
Yep.
wrong.
Yes, Christy Erdahl.
Perfect.
Yes, does great work. And I just recently spoke with her because for a while there, her company wasn't working because of the COVID scenario, but she said she's, back in business. And I know HB Move Management is in business. So those are a couple of good ones to interview.
Great, thank you, Dick.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay. So let's talk about the home inspection that I mentioned earlier. In today's marketplace, there are two types of inspections that are done on the property. And what they're meant to evaluate the structural and mechanical components, but they're not there to address the value of your home. That's done in another called a comparative market analysis. The home inspection is set up to look at furniture or furnaces, roofs. They look at electrical foundations. They really look at the nuts and bolts of the house, and they come up with, their opinion of what the house condition is. The second one is a sewer line inspection. And what they do is they come out with the machine and they run the cameras right through the sewer lines out to where it meets the street. And then they provide a small report and a film oftentimes of what they're looking at. In today's market, if one wants to make it easy for the buyers, the homeowner is actually doing and having the home inspection and the sewer inspection done prior to going on the market. Now, that does not mean that once you receive that, you have to go fix everything. But along with that, when you fill out a Washington State disclosure form, which is required when you sell your property, what you maybe have found, we have to make mention of it. So again, in that regard, there's no surprises at all. The other avenue is to, which I would probably, if you're wanting to save some money, would recommend is you have your sewer line inspection, because we have no idea what's going on in the sewer line. And of any of the items, it can be very pricey if it's broken or there's something not right with it. As far as the home inspection goes, oftentimes the buyers will do an inspection of your home prior to making their offer and at their expense. So again, it's a conversation that we have, but those are the two different approaches that exist today. Home inspections run $450, $500. Sewer line inspections are about $250. And they're qualified. There's companies that's all they specialize in, just like home inspectors. Because you're there to have professionals, not someone looking for a job to now say, okay, yeah, I can fix it too, and it's going to cost you X. You want a candid approach from a third party. Also, when you sell today, the state requires carbon monoxide detectors be placed in your property. And they generally, you can get them at Home Depot. They're reasonably priced, they're about $25. And where they're placed is on the lower portion of a wall, perhaps in a hallway. Let's say you have 3 bedrooms that's accessed from a hallway right there. You have a family room down in the, you have a lower level, you place one there. They're not meant to go in to a kitchen where you have a gas burner, and they don't generally go into the furnace rooms either. But that's just a little something that hasn't always been in play until a few years ago. Now, as far as condominiums go, though some buyers will want to do an inspection, there's not a lot of inspection to do because the inspector that is hired will not come out and inspect the entire building. That's really not their scope. Sewer lines, of course, because those are running through common areas, they don't do sewer scopes on individual units as well. Now, what they do in condominiums is, in today's world, they're called, when a buyer makes an offer on your property, they are issued, you provide them with what's called a resale certificate. That, and it's not a one-page certificate, it's kind of like a small phone book. And what that entails is that your management team of your building have to provide all the financial information that exists, you know, the insurance. They have to provide reserve studies. They actually hire these companies to come out and kind of speculate 20, 30 years down the road of what items may need to be addressed and fixed, and how much reserve in the budget should there be. There's declaration and bylaws that describe the rules of living in the condominium, etc. So it's a very thorough look. And we give those to buyers generally after a transaction has happened, as opposed to ahead of time, sending out, you know, all of these. So that's how condominiums work. The resale certificates are seller costs. They run around $300, but it's something that that has to be provided. Okay. So once we've kind of looked at the house, looked at the aesthetics of the house, determining what things come and go, I'm often asked, well, what is the best way to approach this? Fix up or sell the property as is. Most people will clean the property and try to achieve selling it in its as-is condition. The only time that may change is if there's any major structural items that sometimes you can still try to sell it as is, but if it's too dicey, we eliminate a lot of buyers who have to go to a bank to get a loan. And then in the pricing of the home, it has to somewhat reflect the work that's needed. So we have to be realistic. In other words, you have 2 identical homes, one's totally redone, one's not. They won't have the same value. But again, when you open up starting to fix an entire home, it can open up a very expensive ordeal. So the goal is not to encourage that if at all possible. So I want to talk to you a little bit about the pricing of a house, okay, or a condominium. In today's market, you'll notice in condominiums, it was 17 days on the market average. Single family homes, 7 days. This graph kind of shows a normal market, which we're not quite in that market, but generally the activity of buyers coming through the house will be the first week. We will get first week to 2 weeks. We'll receive the greatest number of agents bringing their buyers through the house. Now, if the house is vacant, they have to log in and set an appointment, which then is recorded. So I know exactly who's come through, when they came through, and I'm able to get feedback. There are some limitations as to how many people can be in the house at any given time due to the COVID protocol. But it's all working. And with again, with the internet, people are getting in and being very, very proactive. Oops, excuse me. So as far as pricing the home goes, what we do is perform what's called a market analysis. If now, if you're thinking maybe a year or two from now making a move, then I mean the analysis of that detail that you need if you're going to go on the market probably isn't warranted, because there's plenty of online guesstimates, if you will, that can kind of get to what your home might be worth, though they're not as precise as the analysis that the real estate agent provides. Because what we do is we take what homes have sold in the last 3 months, what homes are under contract but haven't closed yet. Phone calls are made to the agents who represented those sellers to kind of get more of what happened with the house, to give you a true what's happening today. And then we look at those solds and try to then start filtering out and saying, okay, what is most like your home? Because in Seattle, most homes aren't identical because they're not brand new subdivisions that were built. So we pick a range that it appears that fits in. Then it's up to you and having a discussion with your agent that here's where it seems to fit. How would you like to price the house? Because the days of, as you can see, if they're getting 100% of asking price or whatnot, the days of adding on an extra 10% so that you can plan on negotiating, those days are gone. Buyers are very savvy. They all have the same information. And again, it's critical to be priced within 1 or 2% maximum of what it will sell for. Likewise, depending on your situation, there are multiple offers being had on numerous homes. And what happens is we go on the market, we do set an asking price. We then let the consumers and agents know that you won't be entertaining or looking at any offers for a period of 6-7 days. What that does is allow the greatest number of buyers who are currently ready to write an offer on a home to get through your home, get their finances set up. If it's a bank, we need pre-approval letters. If it's cash, we need letters from their about their finances, because the goal is, again, we want to get them through, let them do the inspections or look at the inspection that's provided. And if they know that they're having to be competitive and there's more than one offer, they will tend to show up with offers over your asking price. They all show up at the same deadline. I then go through them, kind of lay them out in a matrix, make sure the buyer's qualified, there's money, credit score, everything is in place. Then I meet with the client and we go through each one and then determine, what's the best which looks like the people we want to work with. And so those analyses take hours to do. So if you're getting close and you're needing that, what's my value worth, especially if you're sitting down with a financial advisor, because they'll look at your situation and go, based on today, this looks good. But they're not able to speculate, let's say based on next January, what will happen, because they don't have a crystal ball any more than I on what our state of the economy will be. But it is an integral part, I think, of eventually setting up your plans so you know exactly what you can and cannot do. Let's see. Lastly, what does it cost to sell a property? Okay. Because the closing costs, and this includes the commission, this includes state excise tax, this includes all the costs that it entails, is generally around 8.4% of the sales price. I can't give each of you, unfortunately, well, here's what it's going to cost, because again, it's all scheduled. The state excise tax is mandated, the escrow fees, the brokerage fees tend to run on average 6%. 3% of that goes to the buyer's representative, and 3% of that goes to the person representing you. And then from there, the agents, depending on what arrangements they have with their companies they work with, they then get a portion of that 3%. But in most cases, a lot of them do not, get the whole thing. The real estate companies obviously are in the business to make a profit as well. All right, well, that's pretty much the presentation today. And I'm just curious if there are any questions.
No, it doesn't look like we've had any other questions come in. So I think we'll go ahead and start wrapping things up. So we want to thank you, Dick, again for your fantastic and informative presentation, the time you spent putting it together for us and your time today. We really appreciate it. And we want to thank you, everyone who joined us today. We appreciate your time and attention as well. And just so you know, we will be emailing out an evaluation form, and we'd love to hear your feedback on this presentation and any suggestions that you might have for future webinars so that we can improve and be even better the next time you join us. We'll also be emailing out Dick's contact information, his phone number and email address. In case you have any other questions, we'll email out his slides so you can review them at your convenience. And finally, we'll email out a link to the recording when it's available so you can rewatch at your convenience or share it with anyone else who you feel may be interested. And if you have any questions about University House Wallingford, or if you would like a tour, please feel free to call us at 206-545-8400. Again, my name is Elliot Hack, Community Relations Associate here at University House Wallingford. And this concludes today's presentation. On behalf of Ike, myself, and everyone at University House Wallingford, where life goes on and lifelong learning thrives, thank you for joining us and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Dick, and thank you
Alrighty.
everyone for attending today's seminar. Looking forward to welcome you all to University House one day. Thank you.
All right, enjoy the weather.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.